tattoo artists are ridiculous. Do you judge people for the tattoos they want to get? If so, what was the one you really thought was stupid? We had a guy come in who wanted a pin-up girl on his arm, except he wanted the girl to be super fat. He then went on to talk about how much he loved fat chicks. At one point he looked at the owner's daughter, who was, I'm guessing, around 250 pounds, and said, sorry but you're too small for me. I like them heavy. After some back and forth we came up with a design he liked and we did business. As long as the artist had some creative license with what they were doing, they never actually judged. It was when they had to do that one flash butterfly again or barbed wire that they judged. And if that is what you really want, then cool. Just understand that at least 5 people in the immediate area have the exact same one. Not an artist, but more of a LPT. I had a friend who loved dolphins. Had one tattooed on her lower pelvic hip bone area in her 20s. Then had 4 children and needed a cesarean section delivery. Her doctor made sure to tell her that he strategically placed his incision so her scar would look like a surfboard for her whale. LOL. I have a tattoo in the same area. Flower. First C-section doctor unnecessarily cut through it and didn't align right. Second doctor for C-section was appalled that the first doctor did the incision that big and butchered it. Second doctor and resident were champs and spent a lot of time and pride to make it look right again. The following day everyone that was in my surgery came in to see the tattoo. I was getting tattooed when an 18-year-old girl came in asking to get no fear inside of her lip before she went off to college. The artist told her if she wanted to get that in 6 months on a visit home that he would do it for free. This is why I love my shop. I know a girl who asked an artist to put lip on her lip. I know her. We're not friends. But the artist messed it up and put lip instead. I do honestly believe the artist knew exactly what he was doing. No more Regrettable jokes, please. I know the artist shouldn't have done that. I know it was a bad thing to do. About 2 years ago I was getting my first tattoo, and during a break after 3 hours or so me and my tattoo artist went outside to smoke and chat a little. Then this guy came at us and gave the artist a crumpled paper and he is like, you got to tattoo this on my entire back, without any introduction. I watched as the artist folded the paper and it was a completely orange badly drawn woman sitting backwards while spreading her butt cheeks while she took a crap. I tried my best to not lose my crap. And so did my tattoo artist as he gently tried to explain to this dude that he isn't up for this, and neither is the others in that shop. Meanwhile that guy tries to convince him to do it and that he is willing to pay a lot of money for it. But eventually he left and my tattoo artist explained he gets at least 3 of these kind of people every 2 weeks or so, and it wasn't even the worst design he hasn't seen. He probably lost a bet. As a tattooist I personally find it awkward when clients want memorial tattoos. Let me explain. I know everyone deals with grief in many ways. I can begin to imagine the process. But usually they want it focused on their death. The fact they have died, the date and sometimes the time, how they died, many other ways about the focus on the death. I try to persuade them that they should maybe celebrate their life, their memories, something nice that reminds them of them. I think it's less depressing for the client if they look at the tattoo and they're reminded of happy times rather than the worst time that's happened to them. Yeah, I get you. My track coach in high school had a tattoo of a fairy on her forearm to remember the life of one of her friends who had died. There was no name or date on it, and my coach had designed the fairy herself. I always thought that was pretty cool, that it meant more without focusing on the fact that the friend had died. My sister wanted to get a memorial tattoo for our mother. Took her to a buddy shop to get it done. We went over all these different designs. He took a couple hours to draw and she finally settled on one she liked. Paid the deposit for her appointment and scheduled everything. Day after her appointment, I meet up with her to see it. She told me she bailed out. According to her, he wanted too much to do it, even though he gave her a huge discount and fit her into his busy shop schedule. He offered to return the deposit, but I declined due to embarrassment. Well, she ended up getting inked by some drunk dude she was hanging out with. He scratched her up and naturally the whole thing looked like a middle schooler's notebook doodle. The worst part, besides the tat, was that she had screenshots of my buddy's design and credited him on FB with a pic of her very crappy infected tat. He asked her to remove the tag and she flipped out and started trashing him and anyone who spoke negatively of mom's tattoo. She still thinks my friend tried to rip her off. She's done this to other tattoo artists and is constantly trying to get work for cheap or free. Obviously she is covered in really bad white trash clip art tattoos. I feel really sorry for any true artist that ever has to deal with her. I'm a tattoo artist and I've had some interesting requests over the years. Some of them are creepy. Doesn't help that I'm a lady, like the guy who wanted a back piece of him in bondage gear with a woman whipping him and would talk to nobody but me about it. Luckily at that time I was an apprentice and told him several times I wouldn't be tattooing for many months yet. Eventually he bugged off. Once I tattooed a straight black line on the top of some guy's head. He was maybe in his late 40s. Seemed perfectly sane, in good health and completely normal. He had a very tiny and long healed scar right where he wanted the tattoo, right alongside it. I questioned him for almost 40 minutes while I hemmed and hawed about whether or not I should turn it down. In the end, he convinced me he really did want this tattoo and so I did it, even though it still kinda trips me out to this day. He had no other tattoos. Most recently, at a previous shop I was at last year, I fielded a phone call for a really weird request. The guy opened the phone call by saying he had already been turned down by several other local shops, which is definitely a red flag. He asked if I would tattoo a stack of bricks on him. I actually took a moment to process that and asked him to repeat himself. He did. It didn't make more sense the second time. I told him I was not comfortable doing that, apologized, and we ended the call peacefully. He sounded disappointed but just, no, number. Don't want your dealer money, pal. It's a story I've told countless times to my own clients and one I have been pleased to share with you. Reddit. Thanks. The dude with the line down his head may have had a craniotomy for some reason and wanted to remember that he beat whatever it was that caused him to have that procedure. To me, the scar is plenty reminder but IDK. To each their own. Not a tattoo artist but I wanted to get a tattoo on my T, sort of the inner side, from the top of the tit to halfway up the cleavage. I went in and he said it wouldn't look good, and I'm so glad my tattooist changed my mind. He got me to draw a line where I wanted it, with a Sharpie, and see how long it lasted throughout the day. It didn't, besides which it was such a trashy idea. Hope this can help someone. Yeah, I would be glad if I were to get a tattoo and the artist let me know it wouldn't turn out well. Like, they know about that stuff better than I do, so they are probably saving me a lot of disappointment down the line. I love my friend, but he is fixated and says it's a fact that it doesn't matter what you get on your arm, as long as it looks fairly cool because from a distance people will just say oh a sleeve. Nice as if not a single person in the world will try to identify what the drawings on your arm are. His arm is riddled with random photos from a monk, scorpion, elephant, peacock, random noose, castle, rose, and it just looks like a jumbled mess. Like come on man. He has probably poured close to $700 in and with that cash he could have gotten a half piece from his shoulder down by a reputable artist here that looks dope. I wish he could take criticism but he can't handle criticism or he breaks down. $700 for a sleeve sounds super cheap. I recently got a tat that covered a big chunk of my upper arm but had tons of negative space and that was like 4 hours of needlework at $125 an hour. $500-ish. I imagine a whole sleeve, no matter how badly done would take much longer and thus cost more. This doesn't exactly qualify, but when I was getting my first tattoo the shop got a call asking how much it would cost to autocleave their equipment. The shop was confused at first and said we don't charge for that. The price for the tattoo covers all associated costs. The guy on the phone explained that he had some things he wanted to autoclave. The shop told him 1 never call back, 2 not bother calling anyone else, 3 get an STD test if they've ever tried this before, and 4 they'd be calling the Department of Health that there's a guy they might need to look into. This was halfway through my tattoo and I was like I officially feel safer in this shop. Autoclave is basically a special machine to clean and sterilize equipment, tattoo machines, lab glassware, medical devices, etc. Random guy on the phone was calling to ask to clean something. I never found out what he wanted cleaned. I have to assume it was something he wasn't supposed to have clean on his own, because he was calling a random tattoo shop to take money under the table. I have been tattooing for 11 years and I can easily say I only really judge people for getting sectarian tattoos. The amount of weird crap people want is mind-boggling and I don't even bat an eye at it anymore. I will do some minor judging at basic B-type tattoos like tattoos that Pinterest makes popular. One time a guy came in and asked me to tattoo the chemical symbol for dopamine on his dong. My husband happened to be at the shop when this guy came in and later on he was adamant that I not do the tattoo. He was uncomfortable with me working on that guy. That immediately peed me off because it is my job. And trust me, it's very clinical. Doings are very difficult to tattoo. Those outies like to become in us real quick. So of course I'm going to do the tattoo on the guy. Fast forward and dude shows up for his appointment stinking and looking like a homeless person. I mean he smelled like he hadn't washed his clothes or showered since he made the appointment a few weeks earlier. I told him I was sorry but my husband was extremely uncomfortable with me working on him and didn't do the tattoo. He smelled so bad I wasn't going anywhere near his junk. It doesn't have anything to do with the question but maybe someone can judge him for his idea. An artist who used to work at the shop I frequent has a story. Some time ago a guy came into the shop, begging for a tattoo on his chest. Everywhere else refuses to do it. Please, you have to, he pleaded. This is normally pretty foreboding but the artist took a bite. Well, what are you looking to get? It was a swastika. A giant one, at that would sprawl across the guy's entire chest. The artist declined. No, we don't do crap like that here. But the customer was persistent. No other place would do it. After all, I'll pay double, triple what someone normally would. Now, this means that the artist can make around $600 to embed a needle into a guy's chest thousands of times, so he got an idea. Fine, I'll do it, but you pay all of it up front. Customer agreed, paid, and they set up to work. The artist deliberately pressed as hard as he could into this guy's chest, like, blood everywhere, yelling customer hard. The guy had to stop his tattoo about a third of the way through to take a break, where he promptly left and never came back. On the price sounding super cheap, so I'm just gonna add it here that the number was my best estimate, which is apparently way lower than I would have thought. I don't know what he actually ended up charging. So now this guy just has a big L or something on his chest. Nice. I was judged pretty harshly when I got my first tattoo. I wanted a coin, 50p piece, with the word yes scratched into the surface of it. This is from a scene in Mr. Nobody. The artist tattooed the coin first with all the details while constantly asking if I'm sure you want me to frick this thing up. He even brought over the shop owner that was working on another tattoo and said something along the lines of look at this nice coin. Now I'm frick it up with this yes. As a customer I was pretty uncomfortable with this, as from the start, this is exactly what I wanted. At any point in the process he could have refused my service, but I made it very clear from the start that I wanted this coin. From this movie, shown here in this picture holds up phone, with this text on it. I don't know what was going through his head or what judgment it was, but I certainly could feel the judgment. Not an artist, but while I was having a tattoo done a few years back, a middle-aged, extremely obese woman came into the shop to talk to an artist about a piece she wanted. I can still hear the voice. It's burned into my brain. A vivacious fairy, curvy and naked. I want her head tilted back as she is drinking the nectar of the gods. Where did she want it? In a thigh. Yep, that nectar. I've never seen such a big guy so uncomfortable in his life. He didn't book her. Some crap about being rubbish at doing fairies. When I went to get my nose pierced, my friend and I were talking to a tattoo artist and this guy walks in. He goes straight up to the artist, shows him his phone and goes, I want this. The artist looked at the phone, back at him, at the phone, and back at the guy and goes, just that, is that just your name? Guy goes, yeah, I want my name tattooed on my arm, and gestures that he wants it down half his arm. Artist goes, just your name? Yup. And the tattoo artist rolls his eyes and goes, okay man, fill out this paperwork. Not a tattoo artist, but LOL. My dad is one and has been for 15 years, including owning his own shop for 4-5. I have spent way too much of my life in a tattoo parlor to not have any tattoos, but I can tell you for sure, every artist I know hates unoriginality. If your tattoo is something they have done 5 times that week, they probably don't enjoy your tattoo one bit. They may enjoy your company if you're a fun person, but they hate doing that tattoo. If it has purpose to you, they may not even judge you for getting it, but they hate the tattoo itself. Tattoo artists are just that, artists. They enjoy creativity and uniqueness. At least this has been my experience. Now to answer the second part, my father's personal answer is anything religious on someone who isn't, a cross on an atheist or anything of that nature. He had several more examples, but this was the first out of his mouth when I asked the question. I cannot figure out why an atheist would get religious imagery. I had this one teenager come in and ask for a tattoo. They had a simple request for it, a woman's name. I always get a little wary when people ask for a name tattooed on them because of the chance it'll go awry, but sometimes it's kids or deceased family. But I try to make sure they know the risks of it. I tell the guy, "Are you getting married?" He said number. I asked engage number. I asked, "Is this your prom date?" He said number. I finally asked why he wanted the girl's name tattooed on him. He told me this was his female friend and she friend-zoned him for some chat, and he was sure that if he got a tattoo of her name she would have to repay him with some frick dollars and leave that butthole to be with a nice guy like him. I kicked the kid out. That's the reason I don't like to tattoo people's names. You win. Also, what exactly is the name tattoo to frick dollars exchange rate currently? I love tattoos. I'm not a tattoo artist, but my uncle married quite the nutcase in the early 2000s. They had a few kids together and a few years after that she got his name tattooed on her back. And I don't mean anything discreet that she could easily cover up. I mean she got Lewis-Ington giant 10-inch letters up and down her back. They divorced a few months later. She got remarried, but I don't know if she got the tattoo covered up or not, that or she's hiding it really well. I went on a cruise a few years ago and there was a guy with a girl's name across his back like a jersey. He was with a girl who he kept addressing by a different name. Really simple block letters, too. Just terrible. I've also got a friend, well, an old friend, who has his own last name on his back in the same way, his own initials on his forearm, and his last name on his wrist also. Not a tattoo artist, but when I was 18 I went down to Anaheim to visit a friend and get inked during my visit. I wanted to get Asian characters going down my sternum, and after I picked 3 I sat down with the artist, who was a paraplegic Mexican dude. My first mistake was trusting the accuracy of the characters without checking, so everything went off without a hitch, and we went on our merry way. Several years later, my brother married a Chinese girl he met while teaching overseas, which led to my second mistake, letting her see the tattoo. Turns out only one character was accurate and the other 2 made no sense whatsoever. I never heard the last of it. A Chinese woman I know said that most Asian character tattoos she has seen are BS. She told me one person told her the tat said health but it actually said chicken soup. Not an artist but wanted to be for a long time. My friend asked me to design a few tattoos for him while I was practicing. I ended up tattooing a mustache on his upper thigh because his local sandwich shop gives discounts to mustachioed gentlemen and the owner told him he'd get free sandwiches for life after getting a mustache tattoo. We went and got tattoos together for the other one I designed for him, since it was emotionally significant and I didn't want to frick it up. Note, I did the tattoos for free while I was practicing and told everyone I worked on I'd pay for them to have it fixed if I fricked up. After getting some clarification from my bud, they also offer discounts to anyone that comes in wearing mustache garb or even fake mustaches. A mustache is apparently their logo. I got my back piece done when I was 19. It wasn't my first tattoo, but it was by far way larger than anyone expected me to get at 19. Apparently, I researched my artist the whole year leading up and when I finally decided to start I had to email to set the consultation up and whatnot. I walked in and I guess he expected someone completely different because he looked at me and went, "You want a tree down your whole spine? Are you sure?" And I was just so chill and calm the whole time. He later, after multiple sessions and us being almost done, said, "You blew my expectations out of the water and I was honestly worried about having to tattoo some stupid, cliche tree on another college girl's back. Thanks for being groovy." I'll probably never forget that just for the simple fact of my tattoo artist having said groovy. Moral of the story, be a groovy client. Let's see what your 19 years old self designed. When I was an apprentice for a short time, We had a few that we used to make fun of. Dream as if you'll live forever. Live as if you'll die tomorrow in script lettering. We called this one Carpe Diem for idiots chaps. This was pre-YOLO by the way, which definitely replaced it. Dandelion petals blowing away, turning into birds. Or, the basic bee tattoo. Dreamcatcher, the old Pinterest favorite. Bonus points if they wanted it with a billion ideas incorporated into it, or wanted it a ridiculously tiny size. Japanese dragon, but specifically, ones that wrap around the arm. We had to bat away quite a few of those ideas. Religious themed black and grey full arm sleeve, usually requested by Dudabris as their very first tattoo. I blame David Beckham for these ones. Not that any of the above are bad tattoos. Some of them can look really nice when done right, and most of them are probably an artist's bread and butter in terms of work. And if they genuinely mean something to you, good for you. But they're such common, fashionable ideas, and the amount of people who come in asking for them thinking they're the first to ever think of them was quite funny. Also, not a specific tattoo design as such, but if your opening question is how much for a full sleeve, you probably shouldn't be getting tattooed and you will be made fun of as soon as you leave the shop. My uncle is a tattoo artist. Two stories pop out to me. For a while, there was a pinwheel tattoo circling around Pinterest that all the girls wanted. What they didn't know is that the center of the pinwheel was a reverse swastika, so when they looked in the mirror, they'd see it normally. Another thing, my uncle is a big, 200 pounds Cuban guy covered in tats. If somebody comes to him wanting a swastika or some sort of neo-Nazi crap, he'll give them a deal, make it bigger, and try to convince them to put it in a really obvious spot so that everybody knows who they are and to make them ashamed if they ever come to their senses. He'll also purposefully make it hurt like heck and scar badly. A guy got his fiance's first and last name around his wrist. She's gonna change that last name. Another lady wanted me to cover her ex's name and put the current boo's name on too. Really though, we don't judge that often. Only if you're getting something really trashy like lip prints or leopard spots. Cliche tattoos are meh, they keep the lights on, but you'll probably either live to regret it or never get another tattoo. I had one girl get pissy when she asked me what I thought, and instead of OMG I love it she got I just put M on. Ask me to draw up something big, super specific that I couldn't possibly use for someone else, and then don't show up for the appointment? Yeah, I'm judging you hard. I know a girl who was proud of the fact she was double teamed. She got an Eiffel Tower tattooed on her ribs as a reminder that she fricked two dudes at once. I was there when she got it tattooed and she was explaining to the artist why she was getting it, and the artist was not amused at all. He didn't even smile or anything. He just said, "Is that right?" a lot. He clearly didn't want to hear about this girl's sex life. I'm friends with a few artists who worked at that shop at the time, and they said when she left everyone made fun of her. They still talk about her sometimes if a story like that gets brought up. To all the feminists wanting to send me messages or comments about S-shaming, I'm not S-shaming. I'm telling a story. Stop trying to be offended. In the shop I used to work at, we would have girls come in that would make great effort to moan steamily and loudly while getting work down because it hurt. No one found it hot. Everyone found it annoying. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.